most important, which is the key to happiness. And I've spent a lot of time over the years, studying these great investors, and some of them, are multi-billionaires, and you're trying to figure out, are they happy? What does the money buy them? What makes their lives worthwhile? And I was in a very privileged position because I got to see this up close, and so I got to see when actually they were really pretty unhappy, and you could look in the eyes of certain investors, whether it's a Tom Gaynor or a John Spears or a Monish Pabrai, and you'd be like, this guy has a kind of glow to him, and why? Where does that come from? Why is this person more fulfilled than some of the other investors? And so the reason we have this photograph of Irving Kahn is that in some ways he kind of embodies this sort of deeper wisdom about what life is about. This photo of Kahn was taken when he was 108 years old. He was one of 4 siblings, all of whom lived to over 100. It's an astonishing thing. And what's even more astonishing is he smoked until he was about 50. I'm not necessarily advocating this, and ate red meat always. And so his son Tom, who worked with him for many years, was in his 70s, said to me, he stayed young because he just always studied. He just was always learning constantly. So it was sort of he had a youthful mind until the very end. So a few months, actually maybe 6-8 weeks before Irving Kahn died, I had this very strange interview with him where I was hoping to meet with him in person, and he was too sick to meet me, and I was initially very disappointed. And then his grandson, Andrew, who's an analyst in his 30s at Kahn Brothers, at his investment firm, is a really lovely bloke, takes my questions that I've written out and asks these questions to his grandfather, whom he adored, over several days, and writes out answers. And when I get these answers back, there's something sort of deeply moving about them. This is sort of the lifelong wisdom of a 108-year-old man. And so one of the key questions I said to him, when you look back on your life and you think about not just the key to a long life, an extraordinarily long life, but actually a happy life and a meaningful life, a fulfilling life, what is it? What can we learn from you? And he said, this is a very hard question to answer, and it's different for everyone. But he said, for me, family is very important. And when I asked him what made him happy, what made him look back on his 108 years with happiness and a sense of pride and fulfillment, he said the things that were important were happy, healthy family members, the fact that he'd built a company that he was proud of, that he'd created something. And the third thing he said was that he'd met people who were smarter than him, who could give him the answers. Because he said there are certain mysteries in life that you just can't solve on your own, and sometimes you have to stop and you have to ask for directions. And so when you look at the things, and I'm pretty sure that the person he was referring to above all was Ben Graham, who was a lifelong friend of his. And he was actually his teaching partner in the 1920s. So here you're looking at a guy who lives to 109, and the things that he's emphasizing, it's not, I had a Maserati. It's learning, it's family, it's health, it's wisdom. And his son and grandson said the only thing he ever truly craved, really, in terms of physical objects, was books. They would take him to a French restaurant, fancy French restaurant, and he would order chopped steak or a hamburger. He just was totally not interested in anything flashy. So I thought that was very revealing. I had a very interesting interview with John Spears from Tweedy Brown. He's an extraordinary guy, again, with a real glow in his eye, someone you feel has figured stuff out. And he was telling me about this apartment that he had bought in Florida, which cost him, I think, $5 million. And he doesn't like to have a lot of risk. He doesn't like to have a lot of stress in his life. So he paid for it in cash. And he said to me, I felt like kind of a big shot. He's like, it was the biggest apartment in the building, and I was the only one who had 2 apartments that I put together. And he said, and so he was very funny about it. He's like, so I had this sort of sense of my own importance. And then he said, when he thought about it more, what he realized was actually the importance was that his kids and his grandkids could come stay there with him, that it was big enough. And he said to me, investors are always talking about return on investment, return on assets, return on invested capital. And he said, this is a return on life. And I thought it was a very beautiful kind of poetic phrase, and it's an important way, I think, to look at your money. There's got to be a return on life, and this isn't. I'm not trying to be self-righteous about this. This isn't a moral thing. It's like it's what works. You know, Munger always says he looks at other people and figures out what works and what doesn't work, and so you're looking at these people like Kahn and Spears and Gaynor, who are very charitable, who are very philanthropic, who are very family-oriented, and they're actually happier. And I think that's a very revealing thing.